All right, folks, welcome to the Strong for Life podcast. I'm joined with Dr. Grant Elliot today from RehabFix, and I've been following Grant's information online for probably about a year now. And I was just saying to him before we went live, like it's very well put together in that he's getting out really good content, but it's also looks very professional, very slick. So I'm really excited to jump in and pick his brain on all things injuries, but also maybe some stuff about social media and business as well. So Grant, thanks for jumping on today, mate.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, mate. So let's maybe just start with a quick background about yourself, like how you got into what you're doing today.
Ooh, yeah, I've told this story a few times. I'll keep it condensed because it can become quite long. But I'm a chiropractor by trade. Most people think I'm a physical therapist because everything I post is rehab and what people would assume is physical therapy. But I'm a chiropractor by trade. That's the letters, at least. Even though I haven't adjusted anyone for probably 4 years now. But anyway, what got me down to this route was way back in what we call on this side of the pond high school. I was around 16 years old. I think I had been racing mountain bikes for a while. I was very into cross country mountain bike racing, is what they call it. Loved it. Was getting college letters to go to different colleges for it, and I was doing quite well. And I started developing back pain myself while I was racing. Once I kind of climbed up the ladder a bit in regards to the levels, our races were, minimum 2 hours, hard effort on trails and mountains. And so I started to, start to feel some back pain towards the end of the race. And then I started to feel it towards the middle of the race. And then I would start to feel it towards the, first 30 minutes of the race, which you can't have at a higher level. And I started having to get off my bike and stretch in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the mountain to try to get it through these races. And I was only 16. I was like, what's going on? Like, this is not right. So my dad was like, oh, we got to go see a chiropractor, of course. And this story's taken a twist, though. Hold on. We go to see a chiropractor, and it's the traditional, oh, let's take these x-rays. Your spine's out of alignment. You need to see me 3 times a week. And we're just going to keep doing that into the indefinite future. And we didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. I was 16. My dad didn't know any better. It was a unique scenario that neither of us had been in before. So we thought, okay, I guess this is what people do. And so we followed that route, and big surprise, didn't get any better. And I just I just stopped racing. I was like, all right, I guess I just can't do this now. My back hurts every time I do it. I'm starting to, my places are going lower and lower and lower. I'm not competitive anymore. So, all right. So then I just got into working out and training because I still needed an athletic outlet. And then I met a trainer at the gym who was a recent chiro grad who had just started a practice in the area and was training at a local gym part-time to network and meet more people because they weren't from the area. And I didn't know he was a chiropractor at first, was just talking to him about what he was doing. And I was like, wow, this guy's really knowledgeable and sounds really interesting. Learned he was a chiropractor. I wanted to shadow him. I saw what he did, and I was like, this is completely different than what I received because he was actually doing movement based things. He was teaching people exercises and rehab and on so many different areas. And I was like, oh, you teach people how to fix themselves. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. That's not the experience that I had. So I, always interested in health, I thought I wanted to be a doctor of some kind. And so I was just like, all right, I'm going to do that because that's a way better experience than what I got. And so my mission is to be the chiropractor that I didn't get. So I want to be able to give people the experience that they deserve so they can get back to the things that they love. And basically from that point, that's kind of what locked me into, I want to be a chiropractor. And I basically stuck on that route all through school and to where I am now.
Yeah, mate, that's it's a great story. And like one thing I'd like you to touch on actually is the impact of language that can have on people, in particular people with pain. So
Oh,
like you're 16, you're out of alignment. There's a specific terminology for that use of language as well in the medical field. Do you know what it is?
are you referring to nocibic language? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear you
Yeah.
maybe talk about the impact of that on people.
Yeah, so this is something I talk about a lot currently on my social media. And at the time, I believe the chiropractor I saw had good intentions. I don't think he was a bad person. I think he was just not evidence-based and kind of following the old school path. So he didn't use extremely damaging words to me, but was definitely on the line of, hey, look at this x-ray. Your spine's out of alignment. You see these areas. We need to get this straight. And until we get them straight, this is probably going to keep happening. So I would say he wasn't necessarily extreme in that regard, but still along those lines. However, now we have about 200 consultations every week around the world with people with back pain. And the concept of nocebo, healthcare providers who are scaring people, frightening people, healthcare providers who are putting people in chronic pain for decades is rampant. And so I make plenty of posts about this, and the most like common or cliche things are someone comes in with back pain. Let's say they're just your average, I don't know, like 35-year-old weekend warrior, let's just say. And they got some back pain. They go to their general provider and they take an x-ray and they go, oh, you have the spine of an 80-year-old. Look at this arthritis and look at this and whatever. And boom, that person's psyche's messed up, at least at that point in time, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm already 35. They're telling me my spine's 80. Well, the expected life is not a whole bunch more than 80. Does that my spine's going to start falling apart? Am I deteriorating? Should I stop exercising? And then those thoughts creep in, and then those conversations creep in. And that's a super common scenario. It's just awful. Many times individuals who are pushed towards MRIs, oh, look at this disc bulge. Are you exercising? You're working out. Oh, you need to stop working out. This is not good for your back. This is not good for your disc. And people are just told to basically people are told that they're fragile, that something is wrong with them, that something is misaligned, that they need to stop exercising, stop moving, be careful all the time. This is the type of language people are told. And we see the evidence that time and time and time again, this only makes their situation worse. It only prolongs healing. It's all negative. There's zero positive to this type of language, but this language is the most common language that people receive in typical healthcare systems.
Why do you think that is happening?
I mean, I think it's a complex question, but I think the fundamental root of it is the biomedical model that was basically the first layer of healthcare that, developed. Well, that would depend on how far back you're scrolling in time, of course. But what I mean is the healthcare we know today was basically built on biomedical model, at least here in, the westernized world. So at least on our side, yeah, like the biomedical model of we need to see what the problem is. A scan or a test is going to tell us what the problem is. And if we see a tissue or a structure that has damage on it, then that is what the problem is. And everything is based on that, not based on symptomatology or based on the function of the person. None of it is based on that. It's the biomedical model. And so that's how basically everybody's been trained based on that model of someone comes in with a pain. Okay. You have to figure out where that pain is. You have to see it. You have to be able to see it. So it should be proven on a test. It should be proven on a scan. And once it's proven, then they're not recovered until it's no longer on that test or no longer on that scan. And that's just not the way the body works at all. So if I had to try to isolate it, that would probably be my best attempt at isolating it.
Yeah, and I think for people listening, can you just maybe clarify that about like you get a scan and the doctor's like, you've got a disc bulge or disc
Yeah.
herniation or
Yes.
blah, blah,
Yes.
blah.
Absolutely. So super common scenario. So anyone above the age of 40 has a 50% chance of having a disc bulge on an MRI and no pain. So asymptomatic, meaning no symptoms. Anybody aged 40 and up has a 50% chance of having a disc bulge and no pain of any kind. So here's a classic scenario that happens all of the time. Let's say I'm 42-year-old Dan, and I love CrossFit and I love training, and I'm a fit dude. I'm picking up, 300 pounds on the weekend for fun. I'm all good. Okay, maybe I overtrain. Maybe I don't manage my load and I have too many heavy workouts in a row, or maybe I do a weird movement that I'm not particularly used to. And so it's a movement that my body wasn't prepared for, or it was a load that my body wasn't prepared for. So I naturally experience pain. Pain is a very normal thing. It's what we do with that pain that could lead to disability and suffering. So pain is normal. So I either go over my load or I do a movement I'm not prepared for. Okay, I feel a bit of back pain. I might have had a disc bulge for the last 10 years. That could be normal with age-related changes, but I would have no idea. It's never going to be a problem. But now that I feel some pain, I go, oh my gosh, I feel some back pain. Maybe I should go see a provider about it. So I go and I see a non-evidence-based provider, a typical healthcare provider, and they go, oh, back pain? Well, since I don't really know what to do about it, I'm going to go straight to a scan. So they send you in for an MRI, they get the MRI, and then they go, oh my gosh, Dan, you have a disc bulge. And I think we got to be careful now. I think when you were doing that workout, I think you popped your disc, and the next step here is going to be injections and surgery. So you really got to take off the gym right now, and you got to be careful. When in reality, it was there for the last 10 years. And that is a normal asymptomatic finding in that individual. The pain they're experiencing is just a normal pain they had from either too much training or an awkward movement. And it's not related to the disc at all. But because that biomedical model has trained most of healthcare that they have to be able to see, they have to diagnose. You have to diagnose it. You have to be able to see it and prove it. They're going to take a scan, look for something. They blame it on that. And now it's in the individual's head. Oh, that movement that I did, or that workout that I did caused this. And if I keep doing that, then this will get worse and it will lead to more pain and more suffering. So I need to stop. When once again, on the other side, and I hope I'm not doing too much talking here,
No, this is good.
If they came to us, we would just be like, okay, tell us about your history. And if they said, yeah, I normally train 3 times a week, say, okay, well, the week you hurt your back, how much did you train? And they go, oh, 7 times a week, because my buddies were in town and we all left to train. We'd be like, all right, we'll just deload for a week. Let us know if you still feel something. Like, see ya. Like that would be the conversation. And they would probably feel fine after a week. And that disc bulge that would have otherwise been blamed and caused a whole lot of issues will now remain in the background, asymptomatic, never causing a problem for anybody.
Like the impact of that advice across all of the Western world would be very interesting, wouldn't it? Like it would
Yeah.
like so many people would be like, oh, my back is okay next week, versus
Yeah.
years of like, oh, I have a bad back now.
Yep.
I guess that's what I'd like to go into next, is like 200 consoles a week. That's a lot of people you're talking to, a lot of conversations. You've massive following on social media as well. So like, what are common repeated things that keep coming up? And you're like, I guess, and what would be maybe 3 nuggets you could give those people listening now, that would probably help a lot of them? Obviously, everyone is individual, but there's probably patterns you're experiencing with that amount of volume.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the biggest patterns has been the theme that we've been discussing so far, which is this somewhat an obsession about imaging. We will have people come to us that are in pain, ready to get better. And they will actually say, oh no, I can't work with you yet because I don't have an MRI yet. And we'll go, okay, well, and then we'll ask them their symptoms. And for those listening, the only reason you need imaging is if red flags are present. So if you hurt your back in the last few months, there's really no reason for an MRI unless there's suspicion of fracture, infection, or tumor, or if you have cauda equina-like symptoms. Cauda equina-like symptoms would be saddle paresthesia, so numbness in your groin region, significant alterations in bowel or bladder function, significant progressive or neurological deficits in your legs. So like things like foot drop. Many people have probably heard that term, where it's difficult to lift your toes. Now it's difficult to lift your foot and you're kind of dragging your foot on the ground. Yeah. Symptoms like these would necessitate imaging. Sure. But 90% of back pain is non-specific and not needed with imaging at all. But everybody thinks I can't get better unless I know what my diagnosis is. And the only way to know what my diagnosis is I have to have an image. But the problem with this is exactly what we just discussed earlier, that the vast majority of the time, imaging pushes people down the wrong path, because the moment they get the image and they see the very common and expected findings of arthritis, of disc bulges, of stenosis, now their uninformed provider that ordered that is saying, oh my gosh, look at all these things you have. The next step is injections. And if that doesn't work, the next step is surgery. So the first large pattern is that one. It's the concept of, I must have an image so I know what's going on. I have to see what's going on. And when we try to say that's not necessary at all based on your symptoms, and that could make you worse, there's a lot of resistance, because, all those official doctors in those white coats, they're the real doctors. They know what they're talking about. And if they say I need an image, I need an image. And they're just not trained in back disorders at all. So one of the biggest patterns is understanding the vast majority of low back pain, disc herniation, and sciatica can be totally resolved conservatively without imaging or invasive procedures of any kind. So that's a big hurdle for a lot of people to overcome.
Yeah.
Another one, which is pretty generic, of course, is understanding that no process for back pain that excludes movement is going to be a long-term solution. We like to run to, quick fix approaches, which is very generic, very cliche to say. But a lot of people think, okay, well, if I'm seeing a chiropractor, if I'm seeing a physical therapist, like obviously I'm doing the right thing. And I'd say, depending on that therapist, you might be doing the right thing. It depends on the therapist. But if everything you're doing is passive therapy would be things being done to you. So adjustments, those are being done to you. Massage, that's being done to you. Soft tissue, that's being done to you. Shockwave, ultrasound, laser, decompression, acupuncture, all of those things are being done to you, but you are physically laying there, not moving, not doing anything. Those are passive therapies. Those can be helpful as an adjunct, as a combination. It can be helpful in a treatment approach. But if there is not movement included in your rehab approach, then the chances of anything you're doing providing lasting benefit is extremely minimal. So there's nothing wrong with getting acupuncture or massage or adjustments or soft tissue. There's nothing wrong with those things. But if you're being provided only passive therapy and you're not being provided movement, exercises that you can do for yourself to fix yourself, to gain the actual benefit of movement for long-term adaptive changes, then whatever road you're on is very likely not going to be one that takes you very far. So
Yeah,
that understanding.
that's such an important point. It's kind of a difficult one because obviously it's kind of like the take a pill analogy, just lie there, allow someone to manipulate you so you don't have to do anything. I'll just go, and there's these stretch classes as well. I'm not sure if they're in the US, but you go and you get stretched by someone. So
Yeah.
can you explain why having that, I guess, autonomy through movement is so helpful for people?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I've never tried to come up with a crafty analogy to do this, but just this might not be a great analogy, but something simple. Let's just say, like, I don't know, let's say my grandpa's having a really hard time on his computer trying to figure something out, but no one ever teaches him how to do the simple task he's trying to figure out on the computer. But every time he has a problem on the computer, he's just calling in a tech, and a tech's coming in every single time and doing it for him. But he's in the exact same spot every time he tries to do that task now. So let's say it's trying to open his email. He doesn't figure out how to, let's say, open his email for 5 years, because every time he tries to open his email, he calls someone and they do it for him. That's theoretically where the person is in back pain who, my back hurts, let me call the chiropractor. That we have to assume that particular chiropractor is only providing manipulation. It's totally provider dependent. Let me call the whatever to get a massage. Let me call the whoever to get just acupuncture. That's what you're doing. You're having someone come and temporarily fix the problem for you in that moment. But if you aren't learning how to navigate that in the future, well, if my grandpa just paid someone one time, hey, I want you to sit down with me for as long as it takes and teach me how to do this myself. Now he officially has that skill for decades to come or whatever, as opposed to needing to call someone every single time it happens. So what you're referring to, that autonomy, is one, not only actually learning how to solve the problem, but being empowered then through that and saying, I figured it out on my own. Taking ownership for anyone's health alone provides healing components. You might have noticed this in your own career, and this is very, very true, where someone might be having really bad back pain for multiple months straight. And the second they actually call and make an appointment somewhere, they feel better without even having the appointment yet. Just calling and doing something about it, taking ownership, taking control, is healing, because you're gaining autonomy. You're gaining empowerment by doing something about it. So if in the midst of your pain and suffering and frustration of feeling lost, there's one component of doing something about it. But then if you're also being provided, hey, here's what you can do now. So now you are feeling like the expert and you are doing the things on your own. And you're going, wow, the things I'm doing on my own are helping. You are in control of your healing process instead of feeling like someone else is in control of your healing process. And it gives you so much more power and control of your health and your mind. And if your mindset is such that you feel like you can control your own health, then that's just going to rapidly accelerate any healing and confidence you do have within yourself. It is absolutely crucial.
Yeah. With let's just imagine, yeah, like Avatar, he's a 40-year-old guy, sedentary most of his life, not very active, goes for some walks, goes to the gym once a month. Lower back starts really getting at him. Let's just say he's got 2 young kids as well. So getting them off the ground is starting to cause him stress. Like, when's my back going to go next? What would be like kind of 3 nuggets you could just give him now that's going to be like 95% chance these 3 things are probably going to make you feel a lot better?
Give me, okay. So wait, well, I would need to ask some questions. Give me the history again. Give me the breakdown. Who am I talking to?
Yeah, like 45-year-old guy, um, probably a bit overweight as well, so probably carrying an extra 15 pounds.
Okay.
Sitting all day, not very active, just goes for a few walks, trains, like goes to the gym like once a month.
Mm. Okay. So, yeah, to be fair, I think a lot more conversations would need to take place to obviously provide the best impact here. But
Yeah.
for someone in that situation, you're asking what are like 3 nuggets that I could give him that could possibly help him just with that information provided?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one simple thing, if we're talking about the average, we'll call it desk worker, the average desk worker who is sitting most of their time, there's one concept that we spread just in our general information. This isn't super specific, but you can make it specific to yourself, is conceptualize the position your spine is in most the day. And whatever spine position you are in a majority of the time, aim to do more of the opposite. So if I'm someone, let's say I'm a painter and I'm always painting ceilings. I'm a ceiling painter. And so most of the time I'm standing on a ladder and I'm leaning backwards and I'm in extension all day long. There's nothing wrong with being in extension. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm in extension most of the day, then I would tell that person, hey, you're getting extension for 8 hours a day. You should do some flexion-based movement to make sure that your spine can be balanced to have movement in all directions. Someone who's sitting, I would therefore tell the opposite, which is most people. If you're sitting most of the day and you're not active, you're getting a lot of flexion load throughout your day. Once again, nothing wrong with flexion, but what you should do is you should do more extension. Do the opposite. Expose your spine to the opposing forces that you are not getting enough of throughout your day. So you can analyze the position that your spine is in most of the day. So to remove the terms of flexion extension, if you're sitting rounded forward, let's bend back. If you tend to be standing, bending back, then let's do more rounding forward. Whatever motion your spine is in, do more of the opposite, and it's probably going to help. Now, from the component of, hey, he has a couple kids, and he only walks a bit, only goes to the gym once a month. Well, of course, one general piece of advice would be, hey, you either need to work out more or you need to walk more. You got to move more, either way. So a helpful prescription that we provide all of our clients, no matter what their fitness level is a morning and evening walk, ideally as the sun is rising and as the sun is setting, for multiple facets of health benefit. But we advise at least a 10-minute walk outside in the sun, morning and night. I would advise him to do that, not only for movement purposes, but for many other things, setting circadian rhythms, reducing melatonin production throughout the day, increasing serotonin, improving digestion, stem cell, all these things that you get by seeing the sun at those particular solar angles in the morning and night. So walk more. That alone will make him feel better, and we'll get more movement, of course. Encourage him to get in the gym more, but that is something that is usually an uphill battle for those types of individuals. And then the last component would probably be stress management, depending on what his job would be. So like, this is where conversation would need to be required. If he has a couple kids and he's in pain, if he has a high stress job and he's not getting movement, then most likely he doesn't have an outlet for whatever responsibilities could potentially come with his job. And either movement could be his stress outlet. But if that is not something that could get them to do, then I would need to find something else that he enjoys doing that would be conducive to health and utilized as a stress outlet, since we know that these things can relate to back pain as well. And then ultimately, I would just say, hey, back pain is a normal process. It's not forever. You can heal. That would be the last thing that I would say as just the overarching message.
Yeah, man. Really, really clear, really simple as well, which I love. Like, do the opposite. So if you're in flexion, most likely most people are sitting. Do some extension-based exercises. As an example, would like a cat cow or something, would that be like a good beginner start, or what would you be recommending?
Sure. I guess two simple ones to build on that would sure be a cat cow, focusing on the extension portion, the arching your back portion. And then you could do a simple cobra, right? Laying on your stomach, pushing up on your hands or on your elbows, depending on what your abilities might be. If it's too difficult or if it's painful to push all the way up on your hands, then just rest on the elbows. One thing that we've suggested some people is if for whatever reason they were saying, oh, I don't have time for my exercise, which isn't true, Everybody in the world has time for their health if they make it. But let's just say they're at home and they're playing with their kids. All right, play with your kids resting on your stomach on the floor. Like, get on the floor, get off the couch, get on the floor. And if you're finding yourself in various movements on the floor, you're probably going to be getting in productive movements for your health. So we actually do this a while, just personally. I don't sit on the couch that much. Very often I'm sitting on the floor, and that requires me to just get in all kinds of different positions and inspires more movement of my body in doing so. But not trying to derail the conversation here. I would suggest if someone is in flexion all day and, hey, I want to go home and play with my kids. All right, get on your stomach, rest up on your elbows, play with your kids in that regard, or do work on your stomach, up on your forearms, or, texting on your phone, like lay on your stomach, rest up on your forearms, text in that position. Very easy ways to maintain productivity and get maybe some extension if you are someone who is sitting all day.
Yeah, and I really think the impact of just building it into your day, like you're talking about, that was a real. I lived in Southeast Asia for 2 years, like 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, everyone can squat perfectly and sit on the ground perfectly for hours. And I was like 25, and I was like, I can sit on the ground for about 15 seconds, and my knees start hurting me. Like, this doesn't make sense. And then after a year of just eating on the ground, using squat toilets, I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, you become what you repeat on a daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about your, like, someone comes to RehabFix, they have this back issue, maybe it's sciatica or something's going on, most likely with their lower back. Like, what happens? Like, what's the process for people who want to come and work with you?
Yeah, so of course we want to make sure that person is a right fit for us. So we'll go through an initial screening just to make sure that, our goals align. Most of the people who come to us are people who are motivated to get better, who typically want to return to an active lifestyle. Of course, if someone messages us and just sees that we're posting about back pain and they say, hey, I'm looking for XYZ things that require no work. We're not going to, we're probably going to direct them somewhere else. So we want to know that, hey, you're looking for a rehab plan. You're a motivated individual who can be self-motivated, self-committed to a plan. You need to have those things established, and your goals are such that you want to learn how to move and fix yourself. Okay, great. Goals align. Well, then, of course, we need to take those individuals through an appropriate assessment to accurately identify what is causing their pain or what movement triggers their pain the most, and then find movements that will then reduce those triggers and improve their function. So, of course, we take everyone through an assessment. We analyze their range of motion, orthopedic testing, specialized testing to identify those triggers. And then during the initial assessment, we will take people through our best advised exercises real time during that very first call to try to identify exercises that can reduce their pain real time during that call, and then actually retest their triggering movements to see which ones improved and by how much. And for us, on average, usually our ideal client, we're seeing about 30% reduction in pain in the very first call. So if we're able to produce improvement like that and be able to identify what movements hurt, what movements immediately made them better, then of course we can use that information to then build out a plan and say, hey, based on this, here's the plan that's going to work best for you. And here are the expectations in doing so. So that's essentially the process.
That's great, mate. And then with regards to like the psychological side of things, so like someone gets a flare up and I think the term is like, a downward anxiety spiral. They freak out because how do you coach people through that? And what advice do you give to someone? Because I actually had a call just earlier and the person I was talking to, they hurt their back and then they just stopped doing everything because everything scared them. So what advice do you have in this type of like cycle of worry that it's back to square one again once you get a flare up?
Yeah, real conversations that happen all the time. And just so everyone is aware, like our success rates are pretty dang good. That doesn't mean our clients don't have flare-ups along the way. Flare-ups are normal because pain is an experience and many things can impact pain. So on the front end, if one of our clients reaches out and says, hey, and for context, let's say it's an individual who has been doing quite well, progressing every week, everything's smooth, like everything's good. And then they have a flare-up and they are thinking, oh my gosh, I think I just re-injured myself. Guys, like I was, just picking up something simple off the ground and now my back's hurting. And, I think I'm back to square one. Is this working? Do I need to go get injection now? And it's that downward spiral. The very first step is not even asking what they're feeling or what their pain is like. The very first step for us is asking what happened that day? What happened that week? What's going on in your life right now? Those are the first questions. Because let me give you a few different examples here. So hopefully it makes sense. Let's say scenario number one, and this is a scenario that happens all of the time. Great client. They're doing amazing. Every week getting better. Oh my gosh, just, 1 month in, they're 70% improved. And then boom, flare up. Oh my gosh, everything is collapsing. We'll say, hey, let's take a step back. What happened that particular day? Oh, it's just, just a normal day. And, I came home and, I bent over and now I'm in pain. Like, I need help. And, they're worrying. Let me say, no, but like, what happened that day outside of that? Like, did something happen at work? Is something going on in your personal life? Did anything happen? Oh, no, nothing. Okay. What about that week? What happened that week? And very, very often individuals will disclose some degree of either increased work stress that happened, maybe emotional stress. Maybe there's a personal relationship in their life where they're having struggles with. Maybe there was a life event happen that is causing them a lot of stress, whatever. Very often we will identify something else completely unrelated to their back that is not usual for their life, something that is giving them anxiety, that is giving them stress, that is giving them more worries. And what you're Mine does, because pain is an experience. Pain is an experience, is it will use, hey, whatever existing injuries you have, it'll use that as a channel to basically attempt to get it out. And they'll experience that pain. And when we help them identify, hey, this week in your rehab plan, you were doing exercises that were actually loading your back, that were strengthening your back. We know that you can easily pick your phone off the ground. There's no way that could have injured your back. It's not physiologically possible. If you were doing more than that, let's say they're back to a 50-pound deadlift. If you can consistently, do a 50-pound deadlift, let's say, bending over to pick up your phone will physiologically do nothing to your back. There's no way. So just because you feel a hurt does not mean anything is harmed. Hurt does not equal harm. Pain does not equate to tissue damage. Just because you feel more pain does not mean more tissue is damaged, does not mean you re-injured something, does not mean you're starting from square one. All of the progress you made up until that point does not just go poof and disappear. It just means your experience of pain is heightened right now. That's all that means. So to summarize that, I would say step one, we analyze what happened today, what happened this week in your life outside of your back. So we're asking about their job. We're asking about their personal life. We're asking about friends and family, social community, whatever. Those are the things we're asking about. And if there's no significant findings there, or maybe nothing, perhaps things aren't being disclosed to us, and we do think maybe it is related to the movement, then we'll analyze the movement. Did you do a movement that your body wasn't prepared for, one that you haven't done in a long time? And if it's maybe in those lines, then we reassure them in what I just said. Hurt does not equal harm. Pain does not equal tissue damage. All of the progress you made does not just go away. It's like if I'm consistently lifting in the gym for 60 days and then I, am out for a week, like it's not like all that, progress I made in that time is just gone. I might look a little bit flatter. I might not look as, pumped up if I haven't trained for a week, but it's not like all that progress is just completely eliminated. That progress is still there. It's just being covered up by the temporary experience of pain. So trying to help them frame that mindset can often help them identify if something did happen outside of that in their life that caused pain. They can say, oh my gosh, you're right. That day that I experienced pain, I had this huge project dropped on my desk and I just wasn't prepared for it. And they gave me a really strict deadline and I'm nervous about losing my job. But I didn't have time to then go do this. And they realize, oh my gosh, that's what triggered it. Or they're saying, yeah, I had a really big fight with my wife today, really big fight with my wife. And, that was the day that my back flared up on me. Okay. We know that it's from that. Everything is good. And usually within 1 to 2 days, they're completely fine because they've been able to draw that connection. And if it's not that, then we can help them understand hurt doesn't equal harm. Pain doesn't equal tissue damage. All these things I just discussed. That is also very comforting and helping them realize, okay, I'm all right. My experience is currently elevated, but the progress I've made is still real. And there's no reason I can't get back to that.
That's such good advice, man. I think we need to get some hurt, not harm t-shirts made if you don't have them made already.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good thing for people to remember. And yeah, it's very, just as you were saying that as well, like if someone uses training every time they're stressed as well, like that's probably, a guy he's stressed, he just goes in and hammers himself. And that's probably a really good way to get injured or make things worse as well, right?
if you're not respecting load, sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and once again, there's other layers to that. Let's say someone is dealing with an injury, also really stressed. They use exercise as an outlet. Well, exercise is an amazing outlet for stress, but context is key here. If they're normally training 4 times a week at a moderate intensity, and now they're more stressed than they normally are, and let's say their sleep, they go from 8 hours a night to 5 hours a night for that week, and now they simultaneously are working out 6 times a week now because they want more training because they're more stressed, then that's a scenario where load management is not being respected, and that could result in an injury because of those compounding things. Like exercise and movement is an amazing tool for stress if the other things are maintained and are in balance. But if sleep goes down, stress goes up, training goes up, load management goes up, and you're not maintaining, then an injury can absolutely be a result.
Awesome, mate. You have crushed it for the last 50 minutes on rehab. I want to shift gears into social media, and you've built a really good following on social media. Um, yeah, maybe do you have any advice for practitioners, personal trainers, PTs, chiros who want to start building a following online, want to maybe turn their business into like an online business? Um, Maybe tell people more about like how long it's taken you to get to where you're at, and some piece of advice there I think would be very helpful as well.
Yeah, I mean, first, social media is everything nowadays. Social media is very, very, very powerful. And first, I would just ask the individual what's their goal with social media, and ensure that they have a clear goal, a clear aim. Now, after that, if I were to tell kind of like what I've done, in the simplest piece of advice I can give, which might be overwhelming to some people at the same time, is this is that when I made the decision to grow my social media, it wasn't even with the intention of developing an online business. That was not the original goal. I was still in school when I first started my brand and started posting consistently and taking social media consistently. I was still in school. I was a little over halfway through my doctorate program. And I had been listening to podcasts on how to grow social media. And I started following other larger accounts that I wanted to mimic to get just an understanding for what good posts were, how to develop good posts. I started teaching myself editing so I could improve these things. And I listened to multiple podcasts where, and this is the advice, where they said, listen, if you want to grow a social following, you have to post every day. You just have to do it. Even if you don't think your post is amazing or perfect or whatever, you just got to post every day. And I'd grown a little bit up until that point, posting like 3 times a week. And so I just made a decision and I said, you know what, this isn't for the goal of an online program. It was actually for the goal of just a portfolio for myself. Wherever I was going to go and start a physical practice, I wanted to have a portfolio to show my experience and show my expertise to help a physical business, which I don't have at all anymore at this point. I'm totally online, which I never thought I would be. So I decided, okay, I'm going to post every day. I'm going to post every single day for 1 year and see what happens. Well, posted every day for a year and I gained 100,000 followers. So before I even graduated from my doctorate program, I had over 100,000 followers on Instagram, and then just kept doing that, just never stopped. And yeah, all of my media is where it is now. So my most basic piece of advice that a lot of people aren't going to want to hear is, if you want to grow social media, you got to post, and you can't obsess about thinking, oh, it needs to be really good or overcomplicated or whatever. There's some really, really basic posts out there that do really well. So if you have a goal for using your social media to grow yourself and to help more people, you got to post a lot. that's pretty much it. Honestly, like, commit to it. You got to commit to it and do it consistently, because anything done consistently will get you to the goal. But you got to commit to it. And that's just how it goes for any goal in life.
It's important to do it every day. Um, do you have a schedule for videoing, for ideation, for all of these things? How does that work?
Depends on what's going on in the business, depends on what's going on in my life. Ideally, for a while there, when my style of content involved me and a friend of mine, where we were doing basically the two of us and modeling different exercises, I would schedule a shoot about every 2 to 3 weeks, and we would film a batch of 15 to 20 videos in one session, and then send those out to an editor, or I would edit some of them myself, and then we would post accordingly. That's how we did it for a while. At this point, I no longer do those style of videos. And to be fair, my structure now is not very organized. So now I will write ideas throughout the week. And then usually I'll pick a particular day where I go to the gym about an hour and a half early, and I'll film as many of those as I'm able to while I'm there. Ones that I'm able to do at home. If I don't have time while I'm at the gym, then I'll do it at home, maybe that evening when my wife and kids are sleeping or something. And then, yeah, I'll send those out to my editors and get those worked on, unless they're ones that I can work on myself. And I just alternate between videos and pictures, and yeah, I post every day. Some weeks it's only 6 days a week. some weeks, but otherwise I'm pretty much 7 days a week, every week. It doesn't stop.
And do you post yourself, or do you have a VA doing that stuff for you?
Yeah, I post it myself just because like I'm writing all the captions. I don't think I would be able to hire out the captions and the thought and the creativity. So I still have to come up with the video ideas and the content ideas to get the message that I know our audience needs. But at this point, I'm able to send out a lot of the editing elsewhere, so I'm not stuck doing that. So same thing for our YouTube videos, my podcast. I'm doing minimal editing at this point.
Right, man. So you got YouTube, podcast, Instagram, Facebook as well, I saw, but it's not as active there. Is that right?
Well, on Facebook, I have 680,000 followers on Facebook, actually.
Oh, wow.
But it's a very diverse audience. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like even though it's 680,000 people, I wouldn't say it's, um, I don't think it's a super engaged audience, truly. So I wouldn't say we get a lot of people from Facebook. I think it's more so just entertainment there, particularly. We do have a TikTok as well that has 600,000 followers on TikTok. That really does nothing for us. It's just TikTok audience. That's consume land. Not many people looking for legitimate services there. YouTube is really, really growing a lot for us, though. I just made a post last night. I get 100,000 subscribers on YouTube in the last 2 months. I committed to YouTube about a year ago. I did the same thing I did with Instagram. I said, you know what? I know that we can gain more traction and help more people. Instagram was always our number one. And I was like, I know I should grow YouTube. So I made the same commitment to YouTube. I started, I'm going to post on YouTube every day. I'm going to make a short every day. And I'm going to post one long format every week. And I'm going to make sure my long format videos get better and better and better. Finding editors, thumbnail editors, everything that makes a YouTube channel look good.
Great,
And I did
man. And
that.
then,
And then after a year, yeah, I reached 100,000 subscribers after doing that for a year. And then just 2 months ago, a few videos popped off and I gained another 100,000 subscribers in the last 2 months. So that's growing pretty good for us right now.
yeah, that's fantastic because from everything I've heard, like YouTube is way harder than Instagram. Would you agree?
Initially, yes. Initially, yes. It was very slow moving for sure, but everything builds momentum. Um, and now I think the Instagram algorithm is just really, really tough. Like every post that we make is getting a fraction of the views and the likes that it used to. Um, I used to be able to put anything up and get at least 4,000 likes, basically no matter what it was. And now
Mhm.
it's like a good day if I get like above 1,500. So it's tougher because I think just there's so many more creators on Instagram. And I think it used to be really easy to grow on Instagram. I think it's pretty tough now. But YouTube all as well, it's the same thing. It's very saturated. So you just, dude, it just comes down to whoever commits the most, man. That's really it. Whoever commits the most, whoever posts the most, and whoever posts the highest quality, just do that for a year. And if you do that for a year, you're probably going to come out on top. And that's just what I've done every time with different social media platforms.
Yeah, and for let's just say, yeah, PT Kairos are watching, and I think a lot of people they mightn't want a following; they more want an online business. So there's a lot of people out there with maybe big followings, but they don't have an online business.
Yeah.
Whereas you, like, you've got a team and everything running for you, so you seem to do both of them consistently. Um, what have you focused on to ensure that your business was building alongside your following?
Yeah. Well, absolutely investing in business coaches and education with business. So here's a big concept. You're absolutely right. There's so many chiropractors, physical therapists, physios, other health related people with large followings who like to post and like to grow a following, but have no idea what to do with the following. It's like they're sitting on a successful business, but they don't know it. They don't know how to monetize it. They don't know how to structure it to ultimately help more people. So for me, when I was in school, I invested heavily into additional seminars, into shadowing opportunities, into additional books and lectures and whatever. I invested very heavily into my education to be the best provider that I could be. What that resulted in is my ability to help people and treat people and get results that most providers are not able to achieve. So higher results mean more satisfaction, more word of mouth, et cetera. Combining that within my social media push and social media growth, is what resulted in me going from a one-man show to a 9-person staff within 2 years. So understanding that you need to invest into business education and business coaching and mentorship to help. That's exactly what helped me go from, one-man show to a 9-person staff, is gaining awareness and understanding of what is possible with what is in front of you, and understanding the right systems and the right approaches and the right strategies and all this. I just realized I needed to invest into business coaching the same way that I did my education. And that is what helped me accelerate to where I am now and gain this understanding. So there's nothing like the fastest way to learn a skill is to pay someone else to teach you it. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
I don't know about like chiro or physio, but like personal training is so like you do all of the physical certifications and everything, and you're a great coach, but then you're like, oh, like I've got no clients, and people are kind of
Mhm.
against learning about business and marketing and sales, where that's actually essential for you to find more people, help more people, reach more people, and actually, help get more clients and actually help those people make those changes. Is it the same with chiros and PTs?
In regards to not having an education on those things, yes.
Yeah.
I think there's basically zero business education in chiro PT school. I think that's pretty unanimously agreed upon. And yes, you bring up a good point. Like there's in certain aspects, there's like a stigma about like talking about business and scaling your business. Like anyone who talks about that and they're a healthcare provider, they're just want to make money. It's like, no, think about it this way. I'm extremely skilled at helping people with low back pain. People are coming to us who have tried it all, who have tried injections, even tried surgery, who have seen 3 chiros, 3 PTs, and they're in the same boat. They come to us, and many times we're the ones who are able to help them. But if I was not able to, and I'm gonna use choice words here to prove this, to go against the stigma. If I do not do a good job selling that person on me, then I am letting them down. So I could be the solution, but if I can't sell them, then they stay in pain forever. And I am letting them down. So if I do not know how to market effectively, speak effectively, have an appropriate sales process to help that person get in the right mindset, to see the value, to understand the choices they need to make to get better, then I fail them. I let them down. And the result is them staying in pain. So the best thing that I can do if I have a solution for the person is learn how to help them make an investment in themselves, which will lead them to a life free of pain. And if people don't understand that, if you don't know how to sell your skill, then you're letting everybody down. Then I think they would be a lot more motivated to try to push their business and to invest in business coaching and to do these things to help more people. It's, does more money come with it? Of course. Of course, helping more people, getting more services, more money comes with it, which is great. You're building a life of freedom. But the true perspective here is if you're not able to sell that person in pain, then you leave that person in pain, and shame on you. So it's my responsibility to help reach people and to help them invest in themselves and get the solution they need for their lives.
Yeah, such a great reframe as well, because there's people out there becoming black belts in sales and marketing who want to sell people shit, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like it's your duty as a coach, a PT at Cairo to actually start practicing this stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. you're
awesome,
not
man.
selling, you're not selling refurbished TVs out of the back of a van on the side of the street. Like
Yeah.
you're selling a new life to people. And if you're not effectively selling a new life to people, then you're leaving them in their old lives that they desperately need out of. And like that's what they need, and it's what you need. And it's your duty to help them get to the point where they're willing to invest in your services to achieve the life that they need. That's it.
I think that's a great way to finish, Grant. I was going to ask you what to put on a billboard, but that's a pretty good thing to put on a billboard.
Hope there's a few different things to put on a billboard through this, but yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Awesome, man. That was great, mate. Really touched on a lot of really helpful points, in particular for people who are struggling with pain, who think that this is it forever. Where can people go to learn more about what you're doing from yeah, all your services, basically? If you want me to send people, let me know where to put them.
Yeah, just our social media, man. I mean, RehabFix on Instagram is probably our number one hub. Of course, anyone can email me, grant at therehabfix.com. But really just we're RehabFix on all platforms. So whatever platform you use the most, you can find us at RehabFix on all of them.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, man.